It's Podraza. I'm not making any of this up. Both sides of the family had a very strong faith. Now, the mate has to understand that, and he must acknowledge that fact. He has to be strong in the sense that there are those who do not accept my thinking. I do come to this world to harm, but I'm not here to be harmed either. I had a tough discussion. I had to acknowledge some worth in myself, and I had to be strong on that. In my life, I've done my best to handle that situation. You have listened to one part of that. I really didn't want to say that, but I knew it had to be said. Now, I'm going to go out of that. I have to handle that alone, but I have to handle it with my son alone. But the mate has to understand what I'm saying. It's very difficult for me to say this. I don't know how to handle it myself, but I understand that he must. So I don't know what we're doing with that. But that sounds on the food, and I think I have been sound on that completely. I don't think we have too many fights on that. I don't think the Seventh-day Adventists have enough meat in their diet. They supplement with B12. I have to have the complex. Iron I'm allergic to, and dry heaving. I cannot take multiple vitamins. We have discussed that. What I'm taking, we can discuss. Now, that goes into the homeopathic avant-garde and a naturopathic, yes. That is where we're at. I don't know those ketos and other stuff, paleo. I don't know a thing about those names. But that is as close to old country in my life as we can. There wasn't fat that we were eating on meat or fish. That wasn't in the food. Grandma must have used some stuff on the farm, and they had to try to eat it. And that is where we're at. They utilized what was on the farm. They had to kill. They had to eat the meat. It was survival. Now, I am of that and strip the fats out of it as much as can be. Now, that is what I've witnessed. In banks, it takes time to learn the systems. Now I've been compassionate on all of that, very much. When somebody learns a computer, they get a lot quicker. I was older, the young are wizards at some of the pieces of machinery. That is not what I was trained to be doing in the first place. But I could type 95 words a minute on an IBM Selectric, and I don't know, 1 or 2 hours or 96. Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't think that's incompetency. And I'm telling you, anybody that tells me to assisted living is off base. Oh, I'd assist them all right. Right into the gutter due to what I've listened to. The husbands have been stuck with, and wives have been stuck with, and that is how I view this. I don't want to hear from you again with that until it's solved by somebody who comes in here. This is my home, and I don't want my son considering me some ward of a state. I was not the problem, and that was always the case. Some more on this. Coffee is a tranquilizer to me. I can't touch liquor right now. I can cook with cooking wine. I have been able to cook with a can of beer. I've even reduced that and used cooking wine when I can pull it off. What else? Give you an example. In World War II, my father tore my head off once on any complaints on cooking. never complain about cooking in this house on anything on that tore my head off. In World War II, we had to have beef jerky. The soldiers were fed Hershey candy bars or chocolate in that war to keep on within the trenches. He said, well, I had to have only beef jerky and that. You complain about nothing in this house at all on cooking. My mother was a good cook, and so wasn't Grandma, etc. And boy, I said something about that and was torn to shreds on it. When you only have that, you do not complain on any kind of food at all that is placed in front of you in this house. Oh, you laid me flat on that. That gives you an idea of World War II and what went on in that. And those were in the trenches. They had to be fed that. The Allies were fed that on our side in the trenches, and that kept them going. So there's a certain amount of sugar and chocolate that cannot be negated, I feel. And beef jerky, that is beef sticks. Now, that gives you an example of our military side. I have nothing else, I think, on the subject. 3 meals a day if you can handle it. I have to stagger it my way, and I'll cook for a gentleman that way. I cannot personally work with it other than the way I'm working. I would add more salads in. The roughage is too much for me sometimes. As I told you, cream-based sour cream is very good with me. Salad dressing, I can use good seasons. Balsamic vinegar, red wine is all right. White wine is all right. Cider is rough. I got to add the sour cream in that recipe with. One more thing I forgot what I was saying. 6 meals a day. Let's call it. We have breakfast. I tell you, I eat them at different times. For the cravings, I eat what I crave when I eat it. Now, 6, a Sunbelt outstanding. I use the lemon, the lime. When I crave sweets, the chocolate and the coconut. They are the best grain bars that I've come up with. Or fruit. So we have breakfast, fruit in the morning. We have lunch, fruit, or those grain bars. Well, I have breakfast at night. Now, and then I have to have a sweet. I would like to eliminate the piece of bread in the night. I have not been able to do that. But in order to do so, the food increment of portions have to be slightly increased. I work with that all the time. Sometimes my body can't take it, and I'll eat it later. Now, I made a apple crisp type of thing. Use oatmeal cookie on that. And I used maple syrup, a little orange juice. I kind of made that up myself, I think. I don't always do that. I use recipes augmented for nutrition purposes. Frozen vegetables are cheap. They're 88 cents and that around that. I do have to require a sauce. A homemade salad dressing. I can't eat them plain. And I do require that with cheese or what have you. That's my summation. These 6 meals in that fashion even out my blood sugar, and I've worked with blood sugar in my life. B vitamins, a staple. I can agree with you perhaps a little less C because I get a lot of it, but right now I feel I require it. So I'm still using what I got in there. Gummies, mostly my teeth. Can't afford new additional teeth, and I'm trying to keep what I've got. What it does is work through the gums, and I have to wash them twice a day and hard. And I can't use dental floss. It strips, cuts the gums, and infects them. I cannot touch that, but I do scrub them. The only mouthwash I've been able to deal with, I think, is Reach. Listerine burns my mouth. doing better with that, and I will use it with a gentleman in my life. I cannot touch it. It destroyed my mouth. You have a good day. I think that's the summit. It's Pat Podraza. Want to leave you a nice message. This whole thing is ruined due to my ex-husband. Phil doesn't even count, and I don't know what he's saying. Due to him not saying something supportive of on the subject of me, that boy did not know the reasons why in Connecticut, in Nassau, wasn't Melanie. It has been all complicated due to the fact that there hasn't been a decent male in my life who understands me, marrying me, and going forward with this explanation. That boy knows nothing. And I know something. And that is the hell. Because I'm going to tell you flat out, he has not got correct information. And Scott was in my apartment on Spring Street, a well-spoken, decent friend of Lee's, as example. Now, Lee deals with those individuals, and I'm not mad at that. Tyson at least can remember the impact of that first marriage if Lee cannot or doesn't wish to. That is at least positive in that respect. And I'm going to tell you that's my problem. You can't do anything for me. The bottom line is, as I said, if this facilitates, I would marry somebody in Maine. I've been here a long time, and there is some understanding on this. Unfortunately, some are dead and some are married. And some have been decent enough to say lucky to have their marriage. Now, I'm in a darn mess because that is the situation. Now, how far back there is any repressed anger, I don't know. But I'm in the present, acknowledging my past, remembering it the way I didn't agree with it, and in the present, knowing that's my problem in the present. Now, I'm not angry with your endeavor to help. I gave you the food because I want that known anyway. This has been taped. Lee doesn't know that laptop has been hacked, and I know it has been. It does get old.